What do we mean when we say school choice? Some people might have one or two facets of school choice in their head, but it's kind of a wide-ranging topic.
Well, it used to be that you went to your neighborhood school, or maybe you went to a private or parochial school, and that was it. Now, the range of choices includes charter schools, if you happen to live in the city of St. Louis, where there are charter schools, and of course there are two big choice programs in St. Louis. One that's been around for a while, which is the DSEG program, which between the St. Louis City and St. Louis County, and then the one that started about a year ago this time, which had to do with the transfers from Normandy and Riverview Gardens.
And when people say VIC, the Voluntary
Interdistrict Choice Corporation.
Sorry, I promise no pop quizzes, but that is our DSEG program right there. Okay, so how are those different from what just started in the transfer program?
Well, VIC was based on a court settlement. So back in, I think, the 1980s, is that correct?
Right, it's actually the suit originated in the 70s, but the choice actually began in the 80s.
So the effort was to desegregate St. Louis public schools. And so magnet schools were formed in the city to attract white children from the county, and then African American kids from the city were able to apply to attend county schools.
And magnet schools, refresh our memory. Do we still have magnet schools in the city of St. Louis?
Sure. The program is still around. It's not as big as it was. A lot of the county districts that had been taking part have dropped out, either because they wanted to drop out and were able to because of the court settlement, or in some cases, I know Pattonville this year is no longer going to be in the VIC program because their resident African American population had risen to a particular percentage, so they were no longer required to take part. But as Lisa said, that program had to do just with race, just so black kids and white kids would be sitting together in the classroom. The transfer program from Normandy and Riverview Gardens is about academic achievement and accreditation.
And why is it, so you're talking about a suit that goes back to the 70s and the 80s, and we're going to hear more from Jim Kircher in a little bit from the historical context, but so this is not a new topic, but why is it such a timely topic? Why are we hearing about school choice so much now?
Well, not only do you have the transfer situation going on, but you've also had just a proliferation of charter schools in the city. For so long, parents who live in St. Louis have wanted better schools, and so over the past few years, they've been able to get that. Not only are charter schools getting better, but you do see a number of magnet schools and choice schools within the school district getting better too. And so, and I have these conversations with friends of mine, who live in the city, where to send their kids to school. It used to be that they were choosing between maybe moving to the county or a private school, and suddenly they have quite a few public schools to choose from.
And you also have the situation where the city's public schools and charter schools are starting to work together. There's KIPP is opening up a charter school in the northwest part of the city that was a former St. Louis Public School building that the St. Louis Public Schools said they could use, and in exchange, KIPP student scores are going to be counted with the city public schools test scores for accreditation purposes. So it's not as much of a oppositional point of view as it used to be. They're beginning to realize that if they really want to be able to make sure that every student has a choice of a quality school, which is what every educator always says, that they're going to have to start working together.
Great, so it sounds like everything is fixed. We have plenty of good options in the public school system here in the city, and no more problems. Can we go home?
Well, we still have a lot of kids who aren't in quality schools. So there was a study that came out not too long ago that showed that I think around 19,000 students in the city of St. Louis, and we're just talking about the city right now, we're not talking about some of the struggling districts in the county, are in schools that are not considered quality.
Not quality, 19,000?
19,000. So those are schools that aren't meeting state standards.
Okay, so what if you are in a school district or a community that does have a good school? Does this whole school choice mean anything to those who may not have a desire to move their kids?
Well, I mean, people certainly have a choice to go to private school. They have a choice to go to parochial school. They have they may be affected by students who are coming elsewhere, exercising their choice, and that may have an effect on let's say, one of the suburban school districts. So it's one of those topics that will touch almost anybody who's in a public school in the St. Louis area.
But unlike some states, parents in the St. Louis area, for the most part, don't have the option of crossing district lines. So, for instance, in Chicago, I think in Colorado, they have open enrollment. You know, if you were to take their system and put it here, if you lived in Webster Groves, you could send your kid to Parkway if you wanted to. But so our school choice is pretty much limited to, you know, people who live within the city. If you live within certain districts in the county, you could opt to send your child to a magnet school in the city or to a handful of charter schools.
What's something else they have in other communities, other parts of the country that we do or do not have here? Vouchers?
Well, that was one part of the big student transfer bill that was vetoed by Governor Nixon, which would have allowed, in some cases, the use of public money to pay tuition for a non-sectarian private school. That's allowed in some places. The people also talk about tax credits, where I can make a donation to a foundation, get a tax back on that. The foundation could then turn around and give the money to a student to use as a scholarship for a private school. Those are not allowed in Missouri now. There's something called the Blaine Amendment in the Missouri Constitution that some people say would make that not allowed at all. Other people say, well, that since the money never really goes through government hands, that really shouldn't be a factor. So there are a lot of other choice schemes that other states have available, but given both the transfer program and the VIC program, and the growing number of charter schools in the city, there is more choice than there was 20 years ago.
Dale says there's less friction. Is there no friction? I know there are some people who still do not believe that a charter school is the answer.
Oh, there's plenty of friction, I think. You know, you still see, the thing is when students go to charter schools, that means the public school system, the district, is not receiving the money that would have followed the child if the child had been in a district school. So there's that tension between, you know, some people see it as an us against them type of situation. I think that is decreasing, at least in the city of
And do
St.
they feel
Louis.
that way about all schools? Because charter schools are just, that's just one slice of the school choice pie here. Do they feel that way about school choice in general?
It depends on who you're talking to. I mean, some people, you know, if they live in a district that's doing well, choice doesn't really concern them. If they live in the city and they want to be able to have a wider range of options than either the city public schools or the charter schools and not have to pay tuition, then it's of more concern to them. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that that the friction was gone. I just meant to say that there was a realization that working together would help provide the quality school option that everybody says is what their ultimate goal is.
Can you give us an update? We touched on the transfer issue that's going on with Normandy. Can you give us, they've been in the news a little bit this week. Can you kind of update us on the latest?
Yeah, so a judge now is basically once again taking a look at the transfer situation. It seems like this thing has gone to court, I don't know how many times, but parents who were told that their children could not continue in their new schools, and we're talking Normandy parents.
Because the state came in, kind of hit the reset button on Normandy and said, well, they're not accredited, but they're not unaccredited either.
Right. So that happened. The parents sued and said, we want our kids back in the schools they were in last year.
Where they transferred to.
Correct. So they sued the state, and they also sued the 3 districts that were denying, their boards came back and denied the reentry of their kids. So that went before a judge, and he's considering whether or not the state's definition of, you know, there are some other developments that are kind of, you know, making this, you know, kind of easy to explain pretty quickly. But the state board met last Friday and changed the minutes or amended the minutes of their June meeting as it pertains to the accreditation status of Normandy. So officially, Normandy has accreditation as a state oversight district. The question a judge is considering right now is whether that means its schools are accredited or not accredited. So we'll see.
Yeah, the way the state law reads, if you don't have an accredited school, then students who live in that district are entitled to transfer. And there's nothing in the law that says a district can say, whoa, we will not take your students. But the rules that the state board put in place gave that option to receiving districts to not accept students. So Pattonville, Rittner, and Francis Howell are the 3 districts that are the defendants in this suit, because the students who brought the suit wanted to go back there because they were there last year, and the district said, no, we don't want to accept any more transfers from Normandy.
I have no doubt that a lot of our guests tonight will say that there is a lot more to be done than to put this all under the gavel of a judge for a solution. So we'll talk more about all of those options and potential solutions as well.